Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I'm your host for the week, Ashwin. I'm joined by DJ. We are missing Varun this week because by the time we record after the Sunday IPL game, it's a little bit too late for him. But DJ, how are you doing? It feels like there is a lot of cricket going on. There's some South Africa, Bangladesh test matches. There is Australia, Pakistan ODIs, of course. The bigger two things going on are the Women's World Cup and the IPL, which we'll talk about. How are you doing?
I'm okay, thank you, man. The IPL is on. Lots of cricket, as you said, going on. Australia have won the ICC Women's World Cup, the 50 over World Cup. They've had an incredible streak. I think 26 games won and only 2 lost in an entire cycle of World Cup games. So completely crazy, and congratulations to that team. The IPL is going on, and man, the games have been coming thick and fast. Fantasy changes have been wrong. I think we've already used 3 boosters in the first week of IPL, which is pretty impressive as well.
Boosters have kind of changed the game, man. It's completely different now.
Yeah, and they expire really quickly as well. It's not like last year where you could use the booster whenever it was. But I mean, we'll talk more fantasy and more fantasy tips later. But it's been a pretty full-on week, and
Yes, sir.
one of the Garg brothers seems to be missing in action yet again. What do I say?
We got to find a way to get all 3 of us back, but we will soon. But hey, let's quickly start with the Women's World Cup. I think we all basically said at the beginning of the tournament that whoever's fighting here is fighting to be in second place to Australia. And boy, have they showed that in spades. I mean, kudos to Team England after a rough start to the World Cup to end up making the finals. But I don't think anybody I hope nobody bet money against Australia at this World Cup from the beginning to end. I mean, Alyssa Healy, semi-final century, final century, not just a century in the final, 170 runs. The only silver lining for India fans is that she did not cross the coveted 171 made by Harmanpreet, but against Australia actually, but made 170 of just 138 balls. I mean, by the time Australia was, I want to say 25 overs in, the match was over, right? You knew they were going to make 300 plus. They ended at 356. England put up a spirited chase. Let's give credit to Nat Siver for making 148 at 100 strike rate of 122. Maybe in another world, if she got support by at least one more person, they could have come good, but they fell short. I mean, to end at 285 and still lose by 71 runs just shows you the Aussies' dominance. So very exciting. Congratulations to the Aussies. Congratulations to Alyssa Healy, the player of the series. I mean, you remember Mitchell Stark has been player of the series in a World Cup campaign before, so that family is just bringing home all the trophies. But huge congratulations to the Aussie women. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a bit of a vibe of the Australia of the 2000s and the early 2010s where they seem pretty much invincible. I mean, there's the odd crazy innings that does for them, or like a crazy spell that we had in the T20 World Cup. But from what I can remember, India seemed to be the only team that have beaten them in recent past, and that's been Jhulan Goswami hitting that 4, breaking the streak of 26 games in a row or something. And then I think there was a spell by was it Poonam Roth that took all those wickets?
Man, we've established that I have no memory of these things, so it needs to come from you. Otherwise, I need to look it up.
Yeah, so she in the opening game of the ICC Women's World T20 in 2020, it was it took all those wickets, and yeah, it's just the dominance is incredible. I mean, Elise Perry hardly did anything this time.
Imagine that. One of the all-time greats with both bat and ball didn't have to do much, and Australia still dominated from the beginning.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got to give a bit of a shout out to Nat Skiver as well, right? Like she's got a pretty impressive 100 in a losing cause, albeit, but I mean, just outclassed throughout. Even they beat South Africa pretty convincingly in the semi-finals. It's just, yeah, it's and Sophie Eccleston did well for England in their semi-final against the West Indies, but I mean, it's pretty much a no contest in a way.
I mean, undefeated all through the group stage, undefeated in the semi. Like just it was a battle for second place from the first ball. And I hope what the other teams learn is the importance of investing. Right, the Australian board has invested more than any other country in women's cricket from the grassroots level up, and it seems to be paying off. So hearing murmurs about the women's IPL already, we're pretty excited about
it. Is that April Fool's Day or like? Was it
No, I
like
feel
a
like
real
there's been the
thing?
rumor mill, right? The Twitter rumor mill has been going. I feel like it's sort of been going for a while. But have you not heard any, have you not heard this? Was this just me? Did I get fooled?
No, I see some really poor April Fool's Days like jokes being made about how the IPL is going to be expanded to include the women, which is, I mean, it should not
I
be a joke. It should be a real thing, right?
No, I thought Dada said they're going to start it in 23. He said it. Yeah, it needs
That was
approval from the
before.
board. Yeah, it needs approval from the board. But the goal, Ganguly has said the goal is to start it by 2023.
Okay.
So
Well, good
fingers crossed,
stuff.
that'll be
Good
great.
stuff.
But congratulations to Australia. We're going to pivot now and talk a little bit about the IPL. DJ, I know you've been feeling like it's a lot, right? 10 teams, scheduling craziness. Some teams have played 3 already, some have only played 1. It's a weird season in that
Yeah.
sense, right?
I feel a little bit out of my depth, right? Like every year when the double headers came around on the weekend, you knew that each team would be playing at least once. You knew because there were 8 teams and there were 4 games, and so it reassured you that you'd see each team in action. But now I felt like I hadn't seen the Delhi Capitals play for a really long time, but Kolkata had played 3 games. Now Punjab seems to be playing every other day, but like I haven't quite got used to the Lucknow Super Giants jersey either, which seems to have like weird reptilian scales on it when you look at it closely, which is a bit odd. The Gujarat Titans jersey again, that I think that's going to change over time, but it's just a new season, right? It's got maybe it takes time getting used to it, but um, I liked my old format and मुझे परिवर्तन पसंद नहीं basically.
That's it.
Really.
You're just resistant to change, my friend. But it's been a pretty great week. I've had a chance to watch basically the weekend games and highlights of the others. But quick rundown on the points table as we stand, which is after the 11th game. Two teams still undefeated. The Rajasthan Royals, who we all kind of predicted would have a good season, and they've started strong. And the Gujarat Titans under Hardik Pandya as a new skipper, which I don't think any of us predicted. And 3 teams are yet to win a match, 2 of whom are the most decorated teams in IPL history. The Mumbai Indians, two games, 2 losses. But I see, for those who are not watching and listening instead, DJ just pumped his fists in celebration. But the Mumbai Indians, but let's be clear, they have always been slow starters. So I'm not assuming anything from it. Sunrisers Hyderabad, who we got a little bit of flack for putting them down a little bit in our predictions.
This is the time you gloat. This is the time you get to gloat.
It's
Go
only
on.
one. In fairness, they've only played one, but it was a excruciatingly poor. Let me just tell you, their
So
net
have
run
they
rate
only played
is
one game so far? See, this is what I'm
they've
talking about. Like the IPL's been on for 10 days now.
yeah, they've only played one. I think they play tomorrow, so we'll see that by the time people listen to this, they would have played 2. But at the time of recording, they've only played one. But their net run rate is minus 3.05 from that one because it was so bad. And then, of course, your boys in yellow who are going with yellow this year, the Chennai Superkings. Played 3, lost 3. Is this the effect of MS Dhoni giving up captaincy, or what's happening with your boys in yellow, DJ?
I have no idea. I mean, I think in the preview we said when they're good, they're very very good, but when they're bad, they're appalling, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's a change in captaincy. Maybe you don't know with these guys. It depends on which MSD team shows up. Like it's not even MSD's team anymore. It's Jadeja's team, and he doesn't seem to really be in charge. He doesn't seem like much of a captain. I don't want to like read too much into it, but Dhoni seems to be directing most things still.
And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he only got captaincy, 2 days before the IPL? So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're very much using this as a
But
transition year.
has
Jadeja's still on
Jadeja
the board.
captained at any level before this? Do you know?
I don't know if he's captain Ranji, so
Yeah,
it makes sense. He was the logical choice, but
because you see, like it's tough having a personality like Dhoni in the field. I'm guessing, or in the side. Like Kohli was probably okay with it because he was probably quite secure in his captaincy, and he like looked up to Dhoni, and he like kind of, and Dhoni was still an
yeah,
active international cricketer and contributing actively at that point, right?
yeah.
I think Jadeja's in a really weird place because obviously Dhoni is like the mentor, the father figure, so to speak, of CSK. He's Thalla, like he's leader.
Yeah,
But Jadeja's never been like, he's never been Chinnathala. That was
Raina.
Raina.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think Jadeja's in quite a weird spot, and he was batting beautifully before like this IPL. He was in form with the bat, he was in form with the ball, and he was fielding. Today I saw Jadeja misfield. Did he watch that?
I missed that. No, I didn't see that one.
And so did he. He missed it as well. He missed the ball when it was straight at him.
Too
It
easy.
didn't cost him much, but it was like I was shocked. I was like, how is Jadeja? He's just a little bit out of his depth, and the IPL comes so quickly. Like everything happens so fast on the field. I think he's struggling to keep pace with it, to be honest. And I mean, it'll take him a time to settle down. And yeah,
Yeah. I think if anybody's been watching IPL as long as we have, the one thing you know is that nothing is certain until the points table is finalized, right? Like we've seen the Mumbai Indians start very slowly and then bounce back hard. We've seen teams start very strong and then just fizzle away. So, there's plenty of time for Jadeja and the CSK men to find their footing. But it's been a great week. We've seen some heroics across the board. The one fun thing I was going to say is before the weekend, excuse me, every team who won the toss and chased had won the match, except for unless you were playing the Rajasthan Royals. The Royals lost both their tosses, batted first both times, and won both their matches. And then this weekend kind of bucked that trend, where first, of course, our boys, the Delhi Capitals, lost despite chasing. And then the Punjab Kings won against CSK by batting first. So it's interesting because after the first, call it 6, 7, 8 games, majority of all but one had been won by the team chasing, and now this weekend has kind of changed that and said, hey, maybe on these wickets you can start to defend a total. But some pretty
and
cool
dew
stuff.
apparently dew has been there's been less dew. Even in Mumbai, the
They
humidity was lower.
used
Pune
some sort
was
of
lower.
anti-dew. Well, they used some sort of anti-dew spray on the field today, which I don't know a lot about. I just started reading. It's apparently green, good for the environment, but TBD. I haven't read a lot, and it helps keep the dew away. So potentially a big solution they found.
Do the dew. Do you remember that?
Do the dew. Yeah, Mountain Dew ads, right? Of course.
We've just lost an entire generation of listeners who are just like,
Yeah, no.
what is Mountain Dew?
Anybody under the age of like 27, 28, maybe never heard of the Do the Dew
Or
campaign,
Citra
honestly.
Super Cooler. That's the other one.
See, now that's you proving yourself older than me, because that's older than my time. But anyway, we've seen some cool heroics. Joss Butler found some form. Ishan Kishan, Liam Livingstone and Andrew Russell heroics. Faf du Plessis heroics. Shivam Dubey had a good run with the bat. We've also seen the re-emergence of Umesh Yadav, which is just my favorite story. I've been a big fan of him for a while, but went unsold at the auction maybe twice and got picked up by the KKR in the end. And he's been a huge reason for their success. And Rahul Chahar, I mean, sad to see him let go from his old franchise, but he did well for the Mumbai Indians, and he's now done well in his new red colors. So he's done well as well. And then, of course, re-emergence of Yuzvendra Chahal and in new colors. Kuldeep Yadav, not quite the same as Chahar and Chahal, but seeing Yadav back just feels great. So lots of good stories. I think Mohammad Shami had a good spell. So it's been good. There's been some good stories. But DJ, we don't quite have enough time to run down every single game in last week, but I'm going to try to just quickly glaze through and talk highlights. When you were talking to Varun last, Punjab was playing Bangalore. Faf du Plessis started very, very slow and ended up making 88. Kohli played pretty well for a 41. They made 205. What was interesting about the chase from the Punjab Kings is nobody made a half century, but everybody contributed. Mayank 30 plus, Dhawan, Shikhar 30 plus. Let's talk about Bhanu Rajapaksa for a second. Wicketkeeper, not a full-time wicketkeeper, not really a huge figure within Sri Lanka cricket too, but he's come in batting 3 for the Punjab team and just hits the ball a huge way, right?
Yeah, he's had a good start to this IPL. I mean, today was pretty bad because he got run out, sent back by Shikhar Dhawan and left high and dry. Lovely piece of wicket keeping by MS Dhoni. Pure gully cricket vibes that was when he picked it up.
Just fabulous.
Yeah.
Unbelievable instinct, yeah.
Just love that. Of course, I had to mention. But I mean, he's hitting the ball a long way, right? And like this shows you the value of scouting. Like they've obviously put time into watching this guy play. He's not from one of the bigger teams these days. I mean, Sri Lanka isn't one of the bigger teams, right, internationally. So they've actually gone out and scouted, and they've worked out that this guy is a guy who can play well at number 3 for us, and they've promoted him, and it's paid off. He's fearless, hits the ball a long way. Seems to love that arc between mid wicket and long on, right? Like he really does like hitting it there, and yeah, he can bowl a bit as well, if I'm not wrong. So
he's wicket keeping right now.
Yeah, but I think he can bowl as well. Yeah. So
talk about real 3D cricketer.
Yeah, so impressive.
But a great chase, right? Shah Rukh Khan brought in for his finishing prowess, batted well. But Odean Smith, who mostly brought in for his bowling, but a little bit of batting prowess, and came and made 25 off
Yeah,
just 8 balls and took the
yeah,
game away
yeah.
from the Bangalore team.
And so Odean Smith apparently is being people are counting how many runs he scores versus how many runs he gives away with the ball because he's pretty he's pretty expensive
Yeah,
with the ball
he
as
has
well.
been
So
pretty expensive. Right. We then went on to the battle of the two new teams. I thought it was interesting that the first time either Lucknow or Gujarat played, they played against each other. Right. I think you made a joke about it being the battle of the coffee with Karan. The boys, KL Rahul and Hardik Pandya, were both facing off against each other. The Gujarat team, Hardik won the toss, chose to chase. No, not surprisingly. KL Rahul, unbelievable IPL record. Captaining a new side, new colors, excited to come in. And Mohammad Shami just comes and bamboozles him on the first ball of the match. I mean, he was my fantasy captain, so I was upset by that. Of course, the Team India fan in me was upset, but how good did Shami look? Picked up 3 for 25 in that first match. I mean, he was bowling test match lines and legs and just getting the ball to do so much.
yeah, and I think Rahul nicked it and didn't walk, and it wasn't given out on the field. So Shami went up, and there was huge edge, and 1,000 fantasy hearts broke as the catch was taken, including mine and yours, clearly, because everybody captains Rahul whenever he plays. But yeah, Shami looked fantastic. Shami was moving the ball. And there was nip. What I've liked actually about this first week and a half of the IPL is that the new ball bowlers have been in it. Things have changed as
When
later on in
Delhi
the
was
game.
bowling, Shardul got so much outswing. I think in a T20 match with the
Yeah.
white ball, I've never seen him generate that much outswing. So anyway, sorry, keep going.
No, it's been good actually because it keeps these new ball bowlers in the game. It brings in kind of lower order strength as one of the important aspects of the game. So I've quite enjoyed and the quicks have dominated. Even today, you saw the Punjab quicks really get into the CSK guys, and there's been slips and there've been catches taken at slip. There have been disputed catches at slip. I'm thinking of the Kane Williamson um, event. Let's say, which I think has been protested by the Sunrisers. But yeah, it's been great. It's been quite compelling cricket. But where were we? Shami looks good, yeah. But I don't know whether it's enough for an India call up because he seems to do very well in the IPL. But then when it comes to India colours in the T20 format, it hasn't quite delivered yet,
Yeah.
has he?
And he's fabulous in both tests and ODI. So it doesn't mean I think he needs to pick up the India jersey in that third format, but great to see him do well in the IPL. And then none of the Lucknow top order did well, which is, on paper is solid with Rahul, Dekak, and Lewis. Manish Pandey, I know you have your point of view about, but unfortunately also fell short. But then these two, I mean, who does a little bit of a veteran, had fantastic form, got his India cap, etc. But Deepak Huda, and who Lucknow is now calling their version of Baby AB, is Ayush Badoni, made 50s and got them to a respectable total. Obviously, couldn't win the match for them. But how great was it? And Badoni played well in the next match too. Like, how good was it to see this young talent? I think that's the difference with the 10-team IPL that a lot of folks are saying, right? Is teams are forced to uncover young talent, whether it was Lalit Yadav, now who's again not young necessarily, but didn't get a lot of opportunities previous years, or Badoni, or some of these guys. It's been great, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there were fears around whether there would be enough talent, whether the IPL games would be of a lower quality. But conversely, of course, these guys have just come out all guns blazing. You've got Ayush Badoni who's got 50. You've got Tilak Varma who batted brilliantly for Mumbai the other day. I mean, but you're just discovering more and more talent. And yeah, well done to Badoni. He looked pretty good in the second innings as well. But of course, that wasn't enough because the man who said that him and Hardik Pandya would be the difference for the Gujarat team.
He made 40 of 24 balls, stayed not out. I don't think he bowled in this game, but yeah, he won. He won. People were disputing, laughing at his price tag. And the first match, he comes out, makes 40 runs. Of course, we're talking about Rahul Tewatia,
Tevatia,
and
Tevatia.
that was great. If you haven't heard that, so do we have that song posted somewhere on our
I think
YouTube
it's on
page?
Instagram. I think it's on
Anyway.
Instagram.
But great chase. Again, nobody specifically stood out, made too many runs, but everybody contributed. How good was it to see Hardik first bat at 4 and second, to bowl his full quota of 4 overs. He didn't bowl great in the first game. He bowled much better in their second game. But good to see this guy back at full fitness and performing.
Yeah, he looked good with the bat, but maybe that was helped a little bit by the wayward bowling by Chamira and others, I think, who bowled a lot on his pads. And Hardik looked great just clipping it off his pads, but they were leg stump half volleys. So you'd expect anyone who's played for any level of cricket to put those away. So yeah, but it's good news, right? And I think Ravi Shastri probably said in his commentary stint that if Hardik is fit, he walks straight back into that Indian side. It shows how highly he's rated, and he, unlike Jadeja, seems to be relishing this captaincy role.
Yeah.
His first act as captain was in this game, right? It was on the first ball of the game where Shami thinks he's nicked KL Rahul off.
Yeah.
And his first act was to review. And that's just Hardik Pandya for you, right? It's those little things. Because if Rahul had got in, he would have gone on and scored his usual 80 of, 55 balls or whatever it would have been. And that's a different story. But the confidence that Hardik Pandya brings to this role was
absolutely.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, great to see him finding his footing as captain. We're going to keep going. We'll cover a couple more before we take a break. Rajasthan then took on the Sunrisers Hyderabad, which I know wasn't a great game for any of us to watch. But let's start with the Rajasthan innings, right? Good, not good. Like, first off, what are they going to do? They've done well. They're undefeated so far. So far, so good. But man, Butler, Jaiswal, Samson, and Padikkal are all openers. You have decided to play Samson at 3, which I think is okay as captain, and Padikkal at 4. Now, everybody did well. Samson, of course, has never had a year in the IPL, I think, where he didn't perform in the first game. He's just the master of starting the IPL strong. Made a great 50. Shimron Hetmeyer, sadly, we lost him from Delhi to this Rajasthan team, and he came in at 5 at the end and finished unbelievably with 32 of 13. But 210 was always going to be tough to get, right?
It was going to be tough. And with the Sunrisers lineup.
You are so mean to the Sunrisers.
I'm not mean. I don't know. We get a lot of hate for saying things like the IPL shouldn't have retained Sunrisers and stuff. Those are just jokes, guys. I mean, take it easy. It's just like we're just trying to be funny. I mean, maybe it's not funny if you're a Sunrisers fan, but this is a cycle. Like Delhi was at the bottom of the table for years. Like
for many years, yeah.
And we took shit from people. It's okay. Stuff happens. You go through a cycle, and like Warner Garu will be back, and he'll rescue you, and you'll all be fine in some time. But anyway, it was pretty.
Warner Garu is coming to play for Delhi, man. He's landed in Mumbai, according to reports from Warner.
He has. But I mean, this was a pretty sad game. I mean, if you're chasing 210, and then you get what I thought was a slightly rough decision with Kane Williamson, that ball looked like it hit the ground. I don't think the IPL has soft signals anymore, so we're getting some pretty odd decisions. I think that one was probably not out. And so after taking, I think, Josh Butler out on the second or third ball of a no ball, and then having another one fly through the hands of another no ball, and then, I mean, they were indisciplined, and then they had bad luck. And I mean, their good news was Washington Sundar coming to the party. The moral of the story is don't bat him at 8.
Yes,
that might help your case.
Completely agree. Yeah.
So yeah, Tom Moody's won a World Cup. So why don't you apply some of that wisdom to this team?
There we go. Aiden Markram also batting at 5 is a little low for me. I don't actually know where he plays in T20s for South Africa.
So I think he bats up the order, but like even Padikkal, you said he's an opener, but he did really well in the first innings. Like he batted at 4 and did brilliantly for Royals. So yeah, it's all about being adaptable and adapting to the circumstances that you're given to batting.
Absolutely. All right, DJ, we've covered quite a few. I think we're going to take a quick break. We will come back, wrap up the rest of the matches, and then talk a little about what's going on with fantasy, which I'm sure you're pretty happy about at the moment. So stay tuned, and we will be right back.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cock and Bull on Cyrus Says, Cyrus talks to Gauri Devi Dayal, host of This Round Is On Me, along with Abbas Momin and Antarix. They congratulate Gauri on the fact that her restaurant The Table made it to the top 50 restaurants in Asia, and discuss the Oscars debacle over Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam introduces us to Anubhav Jain, CEO and co-founder at Rupify. They unravel how the BNPL service is solving SME's cash flow. On the Filter Coffee podcast, Karthik talks to Pamela Kale Malhotra, co-founder and trustee of the Sai Sanctuary. Karthik asks her how a girl from New Jersey grew up with the dream of starting a wildlife sanctuary. On Tere Mere Raste, Keshav takes us on a trip to the land of Buddhist monks and Danny Denzongpa, Gang Talk. And on the Life Manifesto, Zarina talks about developing 4 must-have qualities for a better life. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you might be listening to us on. And do check us out on YouTube. We're building a whole bunch of different channels. You can find them on ivmpodcast.com/YouTube. And we're also doing a small listener survey, which we would really appreciate your help with. It helps us kind of talk to advertisers. So you could go to ivmpodcast.com/survey. It'll just take a couple of minutes and it would be really helpful to us. We do appreciate this. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, SBI Life Insurance and the India Water Portal. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. We're going to keep powering through some of these games because it's good to kind of relive them with you. Hopefully, those of you listening are enjoying it as well. KKR took on RCB as we continued the trend of the team batting second winning. But this time, KKR had a little bit of a collapse with the bat. I mean, it's hard to say. Everybody got starts almost, but then 128 all out. Full credit to the youngster Akashdeep, who went for some runs in his first game, but he was persistent with, picked up 3. Again, went for runs, but picked up 3 wickets. And then Wanindu Hasaranga, who was, for many folks, the pick of the auction, gets a ton of turn, got us a great googly, and picked up 4 for 20. So nothing really to write home about with the batsman, but great bowling by the Bangalore side, right, to restrict them to 128.
Yeah, and this is a side that's just conceded over 200 to lose a game to the Punjab Kings. So good comeback by those guys. Harshal Patel had a blinder. He took 2 wickets, bowled 2 maidens.
2 wicket maidens.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I think that there was a couple of streaky runs at the end too, because on paper, I should have mentioned him too. 2 for 11 is great figures, but not like the best of all time. He shouldn't have even given 11 runs. Like, the 7 of the 11 were like lucky edges or streaky. So anyway, incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And Akashdeep, I mean, his figures were inflated a little bit, I think, by going for runs towards the end. I think Andrew Russell took him for a few, but he got Iyer out and he got Rana out. And I mean, power play wickets should probably count for double, I'd say, because they're your better batters, and it's when the field is in, so you're likely to go for more runs. So yeah, he did really well. So well done to him. But I mean, that reply was... I didn't quite know what to make of it. You're only chasing 100 and... what was it? 128? Mm-hmm. So maybe if KKR went really hard, maybe if KKR had gone a bit slower and got to 150, we'd be having a different conversation now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because sometimes your mindset in a chase of a smaller total is also different, right? So Faf got out quickly, Rawat got out quickly, Kohli got a little bit of a start but didn't do much. I thought it was really interesting to see Sharfain Rutherford, who can be a more aggressive player, just dig his heels in, right? Looked a little scratchy, but made 28 of 40 balls. And then something a little poetic, DJ, about seeing the man, Dinesh Karthik, hit the winning runs, right? Came out, made 14 off just 7 balls. I mean, at one point in the final over, they needed 7, right? And he just hit 6 on the first ball and finished it off, right? So is there a little bit of hostility, you think, in DK's heart for not getting retained by KKR, or is this just part and parcel of life and he's playing a finisher and he did his job?
No, I don't think there's hostility in DK's heart. He's played for other franchises before. I'm pretty sure he's played for Mumbai Indians. He played for Mumbai Indians for a long time. So
he played for us too, didn't he? Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, he must have played for... I mean,
everybody's played for
Delhi, right? Like, you're talking about Umesh Yadav, who was in Delhi last year and didn't get a game, and now he's gone to become a superstar at KKR. So clearly the Delhi effect has worked there. But I mean, DK was just doing his Nidahas Trophy thing again. And I think you guys called it quite early on, like how great would it be for DK to finish the game against KKR,
and he did. He absolutely did. Yeah. Right. Then we get to Lucknow versus Chennai, another game which, despite a huge total from Chennai, 210, the Lucknow team was able to chase it down. Right. Couple highlights for the Chennai side. Uthappa seems to find form again. I don't know how he's doing it, but he is. Moeen looked good, but Shivam Dubey, unleashed some of his best. Unlucky for him to get out at 49. He deserved that half century, but absolutely great. Like you've called him reminiscent of a younger Yuvraj Singh. So that's always great. So absolutely outstanding to see. But yeah, not a lot else to add about that innings. I think great to see the youngsters stepping up. And then DJ, 211 run chase by the Lucknow team, right? I had Quinton de Kock in my fantasy team, 61 runs. Evan Lewis made 55 off just 23 balls. And then the young Ayush Badoni again finished it off 19 off 9. Like this Lucknow team is looking like it's starting to find some real feet, right? I think I called them in the final four. So
did you?
Did you?
I called them in the final four. Didn't you take a note of all of these?
I did. Let me.
I was the only one who went for one of the new teams, and I'm probably going to live to regret it later. But
you might. But anyway, you called Lucknow, Rajasthan, Mumbai, and KKR. I called. You're right. Mumbai, Delhi, Rajasthan, and KKR. All right. So still, you called Lucknow, which is
but good. I hope you're right because you've got Delhi. But anyway, it was a great chase. Evan Lewis, pretty underrated player, right? Like he's.
Batted at 4 this time, interesting. Yeah. Manish came up the order at 3, failed. But
okay, dude, why is Manish Pandey still playing the IPL?
It's just very sad. I was a big fan of him as the ODI cricketer, but it's sad to see him tarnishing his legacy now by just playing so poorly.
His honestly. Legacy of having a T20 international average of 44, which is what I sent you. I sent you a screenshot.
Which is great. 44 is a great average.
Yeah, but then you go through all his scores, it's like 6 not out. 19 not out. So 44 not out.
Who else can you think of is the king of getting a good average because they stay not out?
Yeah, but you see, this guy that I think you're trying to talk about, MS Dhoni, who scored 16 of 6 in this game that we were just talking about.
Sure.
So, and he's only just got out today for the first time this IPL. So he's got a pretty good average. I know you're the maths guy, so you'll tell me how many runs Dhoni is averaging. He's close to 80, right? 80.
Sure. I haven't actually looked, but sure, let's go with that.
But yeah, I mean, Manish Pandey is he was obviously the first Indian to score 100.
Actually, sorry, Dhoni's 89, averaging 89. Not even the best in the IPL. Ishan Kishan is 135 average and Russell is 95. Yeah. So come on, man.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Fine. The 42-year-old. Anyway, where were we? We were talking about Manish Pandey. He was the first guy to score 100 in the IPL, the first Indian to score 100 in the IPL. And he was good for many years in a setup like the SRH where you needed to score just over run a ball and then your bowlers would defend it. But he's clearly got another gig. He's only 32. He's only 32, right? And I was pretty surprised by that because he's been there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I mean, you don't want to say mean things about people because then you get abuse on Twitter. But like, how long is he going to be in the playing 11 for? The Lucknow Super Giants. They surely got some younger players like a Badoni. I mean, bat him at 3.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think. I think for Badoni, if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. You play him a little. He's playing a slightly good lower order role, but I agree with you. I think.
You bat Evan Lewis at 3. I mean, he's an opener. You bat him at 3. You don't need Pandey to be batting, especially when you're chasing above 200. Why did Pandey even walk out?
Yeah, no, he walked out at 3 probably to try to consolidate and have somebody else hit from the other end, but obviously it didn't work. I mean, they do have Manan Vora in their mix. I think they can, Deepak Hooda could potentially play up the order a little bit. I think when Stoinis comes in, they'll have a little bit more of options when he comes back from Australia, which presumably is soon. So yeah, lots of interesting options there, but I'm going to keep us moving. So we move to the 8th match, which again was won by the team batting second. And after this, I think we're going to come down to teams that were able to defend. But KKR Punjab, again, Mayank Agarwal falling short. Not a lot to write home about except Bhanu Rajapaksa making 31 off 9 and then getting out. Just unbelievable, like 344 strike rate. But your team only makes 137. Pretty incredible to make 31 off 9. Credit to
wouldn't
Umesh.
You love to have him in your gully cricket team?
He just going to swing for the fences at every ball.
Either 6 or out.
I would love it. Yeah.
And then everybody gets batting.
Yeah, that's it. That sounds great. But again, full credit to Umesh and Saudi. Umesh picking up 4 wickets, Saudi picking up 2. But this was the Andre Russell show, right? When he walked in, it was 51 for 4 at the end of 7 overs. Yeah, no, it still is a winnable match, but he just completely. But it was a good fight from the Punjab bowlers, and he just took the game completely away from them. Right? He made 70 off just 31. It amazes me that he only hit 2 4s, but he hit 8 6s. This was just vintage Russell, right? They didn't really bowl him much. They bowled him right at the end, yeah, just for the 1 over or not even a full over, but they just focused on his batting, and he was outstanding. So if Dre Russ is finding his peak again, then KKR is going to be a team to watch out for.
Yeah, but there was
He's
no
a
one to trouble him with pace, right? That was the issue. And like, if you don't have pace, Dre Russ is just going to eat you alive. And
absolutely
that was the issue. And by the way, how good has Saudi been for the KKR? He's come in and like he took
great,
3 wickets
great
against
pick.
RCB,
Yeah.
2 against these guys.
Great pick. Saudi and Umesh together have been fabulous. Like Umesh has got 8 total. I think Saudi's got 5 or 6. Just absolutely fantastic.
And like if you told
you think
somebody,
of KKR,
yeah, go on.
no, you think of KKR's wicket takers, you think Narayan and Chakravarti. And it's Saudi and Yadav who've really come to the party, and allowing Narayan and Chakravarti to just keep it really tight, right? And again, that's the role they play. Batters try to block out their overs and not get too many runs. But if you can do that and then they're quick, skinny at wickets, it's a great formula.
Yeah, and who would have thought before this season started that Saudi and Umesh would be leading the KKR attack, right? Especially we've got Pat Cummins to come.
Yeah.
Pat Cummins to come. That's
Pat Cummins to come in next. Right. We're now down to the weekend. So the first match was Mumbai Indians versus Rajasthan. Joss Butler. Of course, everybody had him in their fantasy teams except me. So
I had him vice
just
captain.
A little. I know. I saw that. I made a magnificent century, right? Samson batted well with him for a little bit. Hetmeyer again came to the party, 35 off just 14, but 193 for 8. Good score, not necessarily unchaseable, a good score, but a fantastic 100. It was nice to see Jasprit Bumrah come to the party a little, right? Like 4 overs, 3 for 17. Pretty good, pretty great bowling stats. Mumbai put on a good chase, right? A good chase of 193. Ishan Kishan got runs. Tilak Verma, like you mentioned earlier, made a great 60, but unfortunately couldn't come good, couldn't get past the spin duo of Chahal and Ashwin, and then Saini looked pretty good at the end as well. But I want to ask you here what's going on with Rohit Sharma. Like in the IPL, obviously captaincy, you start questioning his captaincy after 2 losses. I know a lot of people on social media are, but I'm not doing that. But why does he seem so rushed in the IPL? Like 193 is a lot of runs. With the bat, the batsman, right? You're batting with Kishan. Kishan is going to swing. That's the role he's been given. He's a great touch. Why does Rohit look so rushed in the IPL?
He hasn't scored runs, I think, for quite a while. He's been a bit hit and miss in the IPL as well. I think the last time I remember him scoring runs was probably against Delhi in the 2020 final, which was like heartbreaking for us, obviously. But I don't know. I think it's probably pressure from not having Sky around. Sky isn't part of the setup this time around. He's got a slightly newer look batting setup. Pollard hasn't been as consistent as I think they would have liked. So he's got. I think he feels the pressure that he needs to get the job done. Plus, he can't resist hitting the pull shot. So they keep bowling short to him. He keeps hitting the pull shot. Sometimes he goes for 6. Sometimes he gets out. So.
Rohit Sharma, the compulsive hooker, as he's called. But right, we get to the penultimate game of the week that we're going to cover.
This one.
I really don't want to talk about it. It was so painful. Gujarat Titans versus our Delhi Capitals. 171 for 6, right? Shubman Gill just looked magnificent. And again, you have to appreciate, as the India fan, you have to appreciate Gill finding form again. Made 84, just took every bowler to the cleaners. Pretty good bowling performance otherwise. This was Mustafizur's first game back since first game for Delhi this year. And great to see him do well, right? Like the bowling side looks a little weak without Nokia, without Mustafizur, of course. But nice to see him come to the party. Khalil picked up a couple. Aksar and Thakur both went for runs. But, 171 arguably was chaseable. And unfortunately, it started to realize how weak Delhi's batting lineup looks without David Warner, without Mitchell Marsh, who obviously is not playing anymore for the whole season, I think, right, because of injury. So, Prithvi Shaw didn't do well. Tim Seifert, I think, lots of potential, but didn't do great. Rishabh Pant looked good for a while, but couldn't, finish the game for his team as we need him to. And then Ravman Powell hit a couple 6s or hit a 6 and got out. Lalit Yadav looked good, looked like he was going to anchor his way again, but got run out unfortunately, and pretty painful finish, right? 157, couldn't get to that 172 mark. But credit to their bowling lineup, right? Shami looked good again, Pandya looked fantastic again, and Lockie Ferguson, just what a cricketer, right? 4 for 28, I think it was. What a cricketer! Just we knew when he got snapped up at this auction that he was going to be a great buy, and he's proving that.
Yeah, he bowled well. It's just a painful.
You don't want to talk about this one. It's
Such a
too painful.
painful game because it was like everybody left somebody else to do the job. We didn't
Yeah.
even fall short by much. We lost by what was 15 runs, 16 runs, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you just had like a Robman Powell keep his coolly, there was 1 over left of Shami. Just cool yourself, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you'll get the runs against like the Tewatias of the world. Just stay calm. And nobody stayed calm, even Pant. Pant, I think, got out to Lockie, right? And he didn't need to play that shot. We were cruising at that stage. And it's what, I mean, it's okay. Let's put it this way. We should have lost the first game against Mumbai, which we won. And we should have won this game against the Gujarat Titans.
Yeah.
I wanted to call them
So
Gujarat
one-
Lions,
so-
but they're the Gujarat Titans.
So 1-1 probably net a fair result.
Probably
fair.
fair.
Prospect place for
It's
Delhi to
probably
be, but
fair.
yeah.
But Lockie, I mean, fantastic. But tell me about Lockie's shoes. Haven't you noticed Lockie wears like weird like spikes? He's got a
interesting.
different color to everybody
I don't
else.
think I've actually noticed them.
I think he wears black spikes. Everybody
Interesting.
else wears like white spikes, and he's got something going on with his shoes. It's a bit. See, these are the things I notice on a cricket field. Like
Are you
Shubman Gill's
alleging
towel.
something?
No, I'm not alleging
alleging?
anything. I'm just
Okay,
like, I don't know why. Lockie looks like he's bowling in sneakers, but he's not,
Interesting.
obviously. He just looks like someone who's
Yeah,
just
it
showed
looks
up.
like he does.
Yeah, why? What's up
I
with
don't.
the
I don't know.
sneakers?
What's wrong with black shoes, man? There's nothing wrong with black
No,
shoes.
but nobody else has them, and he plays for New Zealand. He does the same thing. It's like the guy who's in school who's just turned up. He doesn't really play cricket, but he's like, okay, I'm gonna run in and bowl really fast. And
I don't
he's
think
just
there's
an
anything
extension
wrong.
of that.
Anyway,
I don't know.
that's a strange little tangent. I think it's more interesting that you call him like the way you pronounce his first name is more
Lockie.
like the sabji.
Cauliflower.
Lockie.
No,
Lockie.
what is
It's
it?
not cauliflower.
Some
Gourd,
kind of
right?
gourd,
Bitter gourd.
yeah.
No, that bitter gourd is Karela. I don't know what Lockie is. Anyway, it's some type of now I'm like while recording this podcast typing what is Lockie in English. But anyway, it's some sort of bottle gourd. It's some sort of bottle gourd. But anyway,
Pottle
this is why you
gourd.
guys listen to this show, is to hear the Hindi translations of Lockie in English.
And if
But
you have like other weird things that cricketers do, like Shubman Gill's different towel colors, Lockie's different shoe colors. Like I think he wore
The head-
yellow once. He was
the
blue.
headbands we talked to, this is Umesh without a headband, right? He's best without the headband.
Yeah, must be.
Oh,
Yeah, so if you guys notice this kind of important stuff, please write in and tell us about more of this.
This is what we live for. This is what we want. Last match to cover really quick, DJ. Chennai versus Punjab, right? Punjab batted well, made 180. This was really two interesting moves, right? One, Jitesh Sharma comes in as wicketkeeper. I don't know a lot about him, but Mayank seemed to be raving about him as a big hitter who was a great wicketkeeper. He both took an absolutely magnificent catch. I think it was of Rayudu. And batted really
Batted
well.
nicely, yeah, until he decided
Three
to
massive
scoop it.
sixes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but 3 massive sixes in his first IPL outing, 26. Like, great. But this match was the Liam Livingston show. 60 runs off the bat with just 32 balls, and then 2 for 25 in his 3 overs. I mean, yeah, nothing much to write home about. CSK's batting just, I think you said it, like everybody was waiting for somebody else to do it. Shivam Dubey stepped up well. This time made 57 with the bat, looked good, but didn't get backed by anybody. Dhoni was batting, at his kind of, let's just take it deep, batting slowly to try to take deep, and then ended up getting given not out initially, and then given out on the review. But yeah, to get 10 wickets fallen, Rahul Chahar picked up 3. The youngster Vaibhav Arora, another new name, picked up 2. Just CSK just not looking at their potential, right?
No, and so they've played 3, right? And they've lost all 3.
Yeah,
So are they now at the bottom of the table?
they are technically not, because their net run rate is better than Sunrisers, but Sunrisers only played 1.
Okay,
So I feel like if Sunrisers either win 1 or lose the next couple by less, they'll be fine, I think.
Okay, that both of it seem unlikely, but I mean, they may change by the time the podcast is out. But yeah, it was a pretty poor performance by CSK. Of course, they've they've got the players for that kind of chase. They had the Moeens, they had the Raidus, they had the Uttapas, but no one kind of dug in and scored any runs. And it was a weird innings. Dubey looked crazy. Like there was a lot of good hitting by Dubey. Um, but yeah, I mean, Liam Livingston wickets, catches 6 after 6. I think he absolutely tore into Dwayne Bravo at one point, which was almost like there were 3 or 4 overs this week which really stand out in the mind. One is the Josh Butler Basil Thumpy over, where Josh just thumped Thumpy.
The thumper and the thumpy, like you tweeted.
Josh the Thumper, Basil the Thumpy. That was fantastic. Kieran Pollard getting taken to the cleaners by his West Indian teammate.
Yeah, compatriot, yeah.
Yeah, Shimron Hetmeyer, who was like, you want to leave me out of the T20 side? Here you go. And then there was this over Liam Livingston, who just hit these humongous sixes. And then Shivam Dubey followed that up with some big hits as well. But like it wasn't enough. And he got out. I think he got out to Livingston, bowling an off spinner, because he bowls leg spin, off spin. He does whatever he feels like. Took a brilliant catch of Bravo the next ball as well. And then took another wicket in the same over. So yeah, it's a pretty impressive show by Liam Livingston, who I think on this show we've been talking about a lot. I think I called him as being a star last year. I repeated it this year in the preview. I think that guy is going to be box office in the future editions of the IPL. And he hit
no
108 meter 6, which is...
Yeah, there were some tweets today about whether 100 plus meter sixes should be worth 8 runs, and that's a whole different discussion. But that brings us to a wrap. Thank you for reliving the previous week of the IPL with us. It's always fun to run down the games, DJ. I didn't think we wanted to go through every game, but it was fun to go through. Now, as I go back to my browser and see the most recent tab says, what is Lockie in English? I have to go back to the fantasy page. And let's talk a little bit about the Edges and Sledges Fantasy League. So there are 139 of you playing with us, which is pretty fun. I think it's more than last year. Of the
less
3
than last
hosts,
year. We had like 200 plus last year.
Oh, maybe it is less than last year. So if there is some of you listening who have a fantasy team but just haven't joined our league, check out our Twitter for the link to and the league code, and you can still join the Edges and Sledges.
And we'll put it in the show notes also.
We will do that. DJ, of the 3 of us, you are leading the pack in 7th place in the total league, but with 4,833 points. I am in 9th place, just behind you. I had a good day today with Liam Livingston, so thank you very much to him and the booster. And Varun is doing pretty well also. Out of 139, he's in 19th. So a little behind us. Had a tough day today, but he's in 19th. But I'll give a quick shout out to the top 3 teams as we do every year. So this first team has 6,160 points, like 1,300 more points than you and me. So I looked and said, okay, it's got to be somebody who has just used up all their subs, right? Like sometimes
50 transfers left or something.
98 transfers left, right? 1,000 points off of Liam Livingston being vice captain and booster. 483 points off of Dhawan and Umesh previously. 1,100 points off of Harshal and Umesh, both being captain and vice captain, and the bowling booster. Kudos to the team called Wicket Sensation. I don't know.
Wicket Sensation's a good name, but I would have given more credit if it was like a Nattu Bhai 11 kind of name. Where's Nattu Bhai 11 this year?
I'm not seeing. I'm not seeing the Nattu Bhai 11 as I try to scroll down. But anyway, top place Wicket Sensation is good. Team name in 2nd place is not as much fun to read out, but it's called All Teams Below This Line Suck. and it's pretty funny, but 54-71 points, but only 75 transfers left. So hopefully they can keep the performance going, but likely will fall down. And in 3rd place in the Edges and Sledges League is a team called Super Hands. 101 transfers left, so really good.
This person was number 1 last year, Super Hands, like Superkings.
Oh, interesting. All right. And then quick shout out to FPL, Skinny Panda, Rising Titans, and Khan Sun, who round out the top 6 before you are number 7. Hopefully we'll see some movement in the table in the next week. But again, if you are playing fantasy but just not in our league, definitely feel free to join. It's always fun to compete with all of you guys.
So some of our listeners, by the way, Ashwin, have asked for like fantasy tips and chat and like some like, I don't know, insight into how to play good fantasy. So have you got anything? Because you've been number 6 in the world once.
Yes, I have.
That is your claim to flame.
It is my claim to fame.
Claim to fame. I just called it claim to flame, but
I'll take it.
Yeah. Any tips for our listeners? How should they go about getting to the dizzying heights of number 6 in the world?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have any more expert. I've also realized now the sun has been in my face this whole time. So for those watching on video, that's going to be entertaining. But I don't know if I have any tips. I'll say a couple of things that I try to think about. The first is in this year's IPL, make sure you use your boosters, right? Some of them are only valid for a short period of time. And so many of us end up using it on the same day. But check that boosters link and see when things are expiring and make sure you use it, because double points on all bowlers or all batsmen or all rounders has been worth a lot some days. That's the first. Second thing I say is I try to make, maybe it's a bad rule, but where I can, the batsman I try to pick top order batsmen, because some days you'll have a game where Joss bats the whole innings, or the openers or the one down bat will bat so much that I'll pick a great number 5 and they can walk in the 18th over. So if you want to balance the risk reward, now if the team is 20 for 4, as some teams have been so far, and then the number 5 gets to bat and make big runs, that's of course risk. But just playing the odds, top order batsmen tend to score more runs. And then the third is I don't tend to go with very economical bowlers necessarily. So like Jasprit Bumrah picked up 3 wickets, which is great, but it is rare. And the reason he doesn't get a lot of wickets is because batters just don't try to hit runs off him. So he always has great figures, but not a lot of wickets. And the trade-off between more wickets, even if they're a little more expensive, the more wickets get you more points. So those are the kind of 3 tips I'll have. Anything you want to add? Or do you have the opposite point of view?
No, interesting that Varun said this, give the exact same example about Jasprit Bumrah last
Oh,
week.
really? That's
About a
good.
friend who
Clearly,
didn't
clearly I
watch cricket.
listened.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the Garg brothers have got the same. So for me, actually, it's more simple. Like, make your changes consistently.
Yeah.
Don't forget to make changes. And for me, actually, often it's better because we're all busy. We're all working. Like, it's in the middle of the working day for me. For me, initially, like, there have been times where I've wanted to wait for the playing 11 to be declared and then like change my team. I don't know, you get a call at work, or like someone walks into your office and you start talking to them, or something happens, and then you can't change your fantasy team, right? And so for me, it's almost better to lose a substitution and not have someone playing than not to change your captain and your vice captain.
Interesting.
And so instead of losing the entire game and not getting any points for it, you just lose the substitution, which you've got like 130 in this season long fantasy, right? So I think that's one. The second one for me, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this week. Yeah, load up when you've got boosters. Load up that kind of player. That I would suggest. Like if you've got a bowling booster, put your bowlers in.
Yep.
Don't and captain them and vice captain them so that their points get quadrupled. Today it didn't help because the all-rounder that we all captained was Moeen Ali, who got a duck, so we got 4 times negative points, which was not helpful. But
Yep. Always fun. So
yeah,
save some tips for future weeks. We'll try to do that when we also share the points table. Again, DJ, you're in 7th. I'm in 9th. Varun is 17th in our league. So let's see how the next week shapes up. That brings us to a wrap. It has been fun. The Women's World Cup has come to a close. It's been a great 30 days of cricket, but sad to see that is wrapped up. Again, congratulations to Team Australia. The IPL is alive and swinging. It'll be great fun to see the next week or so. Hopefully, Delhi comes back with a couple more wins, and we will keep playing fantasy. As always, contact at onetip1hand.com, or you can reach us on any of the social media at onetip1hand. Did you have one more plug before I forget?
Yeah, we found out recently that we appeared in Man's World magazine as one of the go-to podcasts for Indian cricket. So yeah, if you want to leave us a review and say something like that, you can leave it on Apple or you can rate us on Spotify. So yeah, and if you find out anything about us, because this was almost a year old, please do write into us because they didn't tag us or tell us. But obviously, we were one of the top 6.
Was it really a year old? I didn't. That's
yeah, it's April 2021, and like I didn't even know that it existed. I didn't know.
That's pretty awesome, though.
Yeah, it was cool.
Pretty awesome. Right. That's it. That brings us to wrap. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We will see you next week.